Imagine sitting with us, a quiet room, two chairs, a small table, time set aside. No performance, no show, only conversation. Moments of listening, wondering, and remembering. Have a seat. You're welcome to listen. Welcome to the Just Right Stories. Are you ready for my question?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, when you learned first about original play, you had teachers like children, animals, other people that don't talk to you. So what you learn is nonverbal. So
Right.
how do you translate, or what did you do to translate what you learned into words?
How did I do that?
Yeah.
I think at the beginning, I didn't really think that it would be a difficult problem. It just never occurred to me. Except that even when I used the words original play, it became an issue in talking with adults. Nobody ever questioned, and at first I didn't, the word original. The problem was the word play. That was the dramatic shift at the very beginning. These kids weren't playing the way I thought they should play. They were doing something else, but calling it play. So I had this word, play, that meant two very different things. I didn't quite know what to do with that. I mean, play to me and to the culture is essentially contest behavior or spontaneous do what you want to do behavior. And these kids were not doing either one of those things. They were very clear in the seriousness about what they were doing. They were clear that it wasn't contest because it didn't have any of the ramifications of contest. There was no blame, there was no fault, there was no revenge. So the context of their behavior was entirely different. I had to come up with words that described that context, but those words did not describe play as either I knew it or the culture knew it. So it would be words like no contest. Well, people didn't know how to play without contest. Couldn't play board games at home with a family without a contest. Couldn't play sports without a contest. Couldn't do economics, politics, and so on without contest. That's what play was. And now I'm finding something that play was something different. And by the time I got to wolves, I knew that this behavior was beyond just human beings, because the wolves were doing what the kids were doing. So I had to come up with a word that fit that expansion. And I didn't know, I just played around with it and I let it go. I really wasn't having any help. Then all of a sudden it said, it's original. And I said, yeah, now what do I mean by that? I meant that this play could not be cultural. The source of the play was not cultural behavior or cultural values or cultural mores. Oh, wow, if it's beyond that, that left only one option, and I had, at that time, trouble dealing with that option, because the option was God. And I was not a religious person. I'm not even sure I would call myself a consciously spiritual person at that time. I knew that I was really clear The source is not cultural. The source is not human. And that left me with God, kind of as a last resort. And then someone showed me, I think it's Proverbs 8, something about Sophia playing before God. And I thought, that's the play I mean. And then I thought, oh, there's another translation issue. What does before mean? It's a simple word. Well, in English, it can mean in front of, playing in front of God, or it can mean time before God. Oh, and I thought, wow, well, that's what I mean by play. I mean play that's in front of, before, with. It's sacred. It's divine. That's what the play is. And it's expressed through us, through humans, through animals. And my task was both exciting and more frightening. If it's the big us, I mean, 5-year-old David at that time said to me, Fred, play is when we don't know that we're different from each other. Well, that's another problem of translation. What does he mean by we? Well, knowing David, he did not mean he and I. He meant the big we. I thought, wow. And play is when we don't. It's not. He wasn't saying that we're different from each other. He's saying that when we don't know we're different from each other. Oh. So there's a state prior to knowing. And that's when we play. Oh, so play had to do with disappearing. Oh.
What do you mean by disappearing? What is disappearing?
It sounds like I mean some kind of magical thing where now you see me, now you don't.
Yeah.
That's both true and not true. The physical me is still present. But all the categories within which I live are gone. They disappear. It's the categories that disappear. And that's what David was telling me. And that's what I meant by original. If I'm original, wow, I'm not me. I'm not Fred. I'm not a man. I'm not American. I'm not father. I'm not... In my language, I had to be a face of God. And if I am that, then the wolves are that, then David is that. And when we're played, that's who we are. We're faces of God. We're not fathers and mothers and teachers. And so the issue was, as a regular person, and I'm going to play with I'm a teacher. I'm going to play with the kids in my class. Just how am I supposed to disappear? Well, the wonderful thing is, and it's another linguistic problem, play is full of linguistic behavioral koans or apparent problems. And the apparent problem is I have to let go. I have to disappear of being the kid's teacher. How do I do that? Well, the wonderful thing is it's not how. You don't have to do anything. You enter into a space, a playground, and you're going to play. And the kids take care of it for you. You don't have to do anything. Something happens in that playground that erases your needs and wants and issues and problems of being a teacher.
Yeah.
You can have all of those when you finish and you step back. You can, because adults are afraid, well, if I give up all that stuff,
Yeah.
and play with the kids won't respect me. Actually, your respect is enhanced because within the play space, the not you that exists is a you without fear.
Yeah.
That's what the kids respect because you create a space where they cannot be afraid, where they can be safe.
Yeah.
So now you take that out back to your teacher self, and you've enhanced the relationship between you and children. And that's what the letting go, the disappearing, know-how, all of that is describing that relationship. That within the original play relationship, there's a difference from who you are in the normal culture. Mm-hmm. And in normal culture, we expect everybody to recognize when you're a teacher, when you're not, when you're a mom, when you're a dad, when you're a brother, when you're a police person, and so on. But original play erases those things for the time space within which you play without you actually doing anything. Mm-hmm. Which is letting go of a big worry. Mm-hmm. Because most therapies, most religions talk about, whether they use the word enlightenment, satori, all kinds of language we use, that requires a letting go of who we are here. Well, that's attached to I. I have to do stuff.
It's like an active process that is hard to do.
And we have practice for that.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Well, in original play, it's a practice that can't be practiced. You can't practice letting go. Because letting go is not something I do. Mm-hmm. It's something that happens with me. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. So I don't have to do this lifelong practice. Mm-hmm. No, it's now. Mm-hmm. Or it's not, period. Mm-hmm. Oh, what a weight off my shoulders. And all the language of that's inherent, I call it a lexicon, a language that's specific to original play. Maybe I use the same words that I would use outside of play, but in play, they have a deeper meaning, more connected meaning. I like the word enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And I always thought, and in fact the way I used it was an excitement about something. Yeah. Well, when I researched the meaning of the word, it means with God, in-Godded. I thought, oh, wow, that's what original play is. I thought, that's wonderful. It doesn't change the excitement. Mm-hmm. It makes the excitement deeper. It's not a superficial, wow, that was fun. Yeah. It means this is how I'm supposed to be all the time.
Is this where this connectedness to God is feelable and touchable? Yeah. It's like a natural state of... It's like a natural state.
Yes.
We could be in all the time if we were playing all the time.
Yeah. And then I translate it as, well, quantum physicists use the word entanglement to describe a process that by and large they accept as being characteristic of atoms and particles below atoms, quantum. But most don't accept it as a process for macro beings like us. I say, oh, when you take entangled to us, you get engodded. For me, this is the same thing. Yeah. It's just a scale difference. Yeah. And I'd really like that thought that, and the word clear, I use that a lot
Yeah.
in talking about original play, and clarity, those words. And just a few days ago, a colleague and I, Christoph, had a discussion about that, and he came to me and he said something about what I meant by being clear. And described where you could have two people, a father and a son, or any two people, and be really clear. They both could be really clear about what they mean. I'd say, yeah, I agree, that's true, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I mean. That's clarity in a right and wrong world. I'm not talking about clarity in that world. I'm talking about clarity in a just right world. And there's another phrase that we'll get back to, but just right is very descriptive.
Yeah.
So I said, what I mean by clear and clarity and play is that something has no option. In our world, we think for every right there's a wrong, for every good there's an evil, for every up there's a down, and it's a yin-yang world. Well, the clarity I'm talking about is not yin-yang, it's Tao. That's all there is. There is no other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fundamental difference. See, and the word doesn't change, clear, clarity, but the meaning goes deeper than the cultures within which the word lives. So when I say in play, you have to present a presence in which there's no contest. And I mean none. You can't think, well, sometimes I need fear to save my life. And I want to be loving. That's not clear. Because when the point comes, you think you're going to be loving, and that's going to be your behavior. But the reality is, when something happens, you're not loving because you're afraid. And it can be just as logical and as simple and practical as an incident in a family. When maybe your son hits your daughter, and you see it, and you get frustrated and angry at him. You want to be loving, but before you're loving, you're angry, because you know that prior to his hitting, she probably teased him. So you get caught. You're not clear. If you're clear, there's no anger, there's no frustration. In fact, you would have done something ahead of the event that stopped it from happening in the first place. That's clear. It's a situational awareness that occurs prior to events. It's not just a response to an event. It's an awareness of...
Where you feel things are getting started.
Yeah. So, and that's not easy for adults to come to grips with, because they don't have practice of that. One of the things that original play does is it allows you to practice things that you can't practice. To say to a person, I want you to be loving when you're angry. I can be either, but not both at the same time. I don't know how to do that. Play gives you the how to do that without you trying to be one or the other. Play takes care of it. Oh, wow. I don't have to do everything. I just need to be present. I don't have to worry about the how. I can do that. In fact, you don't even have to think whether you can do it or not, because it happens. It's not letting go of responsibility. You have to be fully present with what's happening. You don't question what happens, and there's the clarity. That clarity is so present that the person receiving your message is absolutely clear about what they need to do. When I was fired from my job as a professor at Hayward University, I had created a problem for the university by letting students grade themselves. And the department received a letter saying we couldn't do that. So the chairperson of the department gave me, I think, 2 months, 3 months, to essentially change my behavior. And I thought, oh, this is a career I've wanted since I was a young child. This is really serious. I asked all my friends all over the country about what should I do. And they all said, keep your job. You knew what you were doing. There wasn't a surprise, and that's true. Essentially, I wanted to be in the university the way I wanted a university to be. Yeah. And now the university is saying, no, if you're going to be in the university, you have to be who we want you to be. And eventually came time, and I had to, and I don't remember, up until the point I was going back and forth. Every day every day I talked to people, I was in another position. Well, it came at a point where I walked into the chairman's office, and I said to him in some words, I'm not going to change. You do what you need to do. That's clarity.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Because I eventually didn't make a decision.
You had this struggle.
Yeah, I went through all of that forever, and I thought this is never going to end.
Yeah.
But something influenced me, so I was really good. There is no issue here. This is what I'm going to do. And I was perfectly fine with it. There was no hemming and hawing and what if, and none of that happened. I knew exactly what to say to him. I said it. I was calm. It was easy. And I said, you do what you have to do. Yeah. And they fired me in 2 or 3 months or whatever it was. And I was perfectly fine with that. So at that time, I did not think about, I was not involved in a conscious process of what clarity is. It's only now looking back at that incident that I understand what happened to me. And that I did not, the clarity I presented to the chairman was not a result of my process of hemming and hawing and choosing. As if the real practice was letting go of all that stuff so something else could some other behavior could happen. And I didn't know what that behavior would be. But it was as if the decision was made ahead of time. And I needed to, in order for me to consciously be clear, I had to go through all the nonsense of being not clear. And it reminds me of advice my dad gave me once about listen to everybody, then make a decision. But what happened this time, I listened to everybody, but I did not make a decision. Without knowing, because at that time I didn't know anything about play or kids or any of that. The I disappeared when I went into the office. I was no longer the person who wanted and needed to be a professor. If I stayed that person, then what they wanted was critically important to me and my career. But that I did not go into the office that day. At that time, I didn't know anything about it. I think there's a discussion with Christoph started me really consciously thinking about the language that I use and the translation of physical behavior with no language into a language that we can play with. Because Christoph wrote back then, had to really think about what I meant by clarity. And for all these words, just right is I think the idea of that came from what's called the Goldilocks effect in physics and biochemistry and the science of all the things that had to happen in order to make life viable on Earth. And I thought, oh, just right. I like that idea. And it occurred to me that original play does not occur in the world of right and wrong, in which any behavior is dependent upon your values and experience and all that sort of stuff. Original play happens in a playground of just right. There's no right and wrong in it. It's, and here we have another koan of language. Just in English, when you say just right, it can mean only right or just right. That's all there is. Or it's just. And I thought, well, both of those are perfect for original play. In original play, there are no decisions, no processes of decision. Should I move here? Should I move there? Everyone who's done original play with children has had the experience of doing a motion, a movement, something with the kids, and afterwards saying, how'd that happen? Who did? I remember something about kids holding your arms.
Yeah, that was
Can you describe that?
I think that was one of the first moments where I consciously recognized that something's totally strange when I played, because I was being held by kids on both of my arms, so I couldn't clap. And outside of the mat space, there was another kid, and the kid looked at me, and I knew right away it wanted to run up to me, like jump me. And in that moment, I just said, kind of in my head, I said yes. I remember that. And the next second, I was lying on the mat with that kid in my arms. And I couldn't explain where did the other kids go. I have no idea. And how the time and the space in between the saying yes and having the kid in my arm felt like there was no time. And I played, but then afterwards I thought something happened I couldn't explain, and something I often think about. And it's also something that in a way changed my life, because to me it was a symbolism of life, that kid, life jumping me, wanting to jump me, and I felt stuck. I don't know how to do it, but I said yes anyway. And very often when I have this feeling of, oh, now life is jumping me, I don't know what to do, I just say yes. And then some things happen that I can't explain. That things get solved for me, or things that I thought would be bad are just kind of poof, it's gone. It's very, very, I often think of that one moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was very critical to me. But then your body moves in a way you don't know. It just does it.
Was it coincidence?
What do you mean?
Was that you're essentially embracing him, and you're saying yes, and the whole event, was that just a coincidence?
No, I don't. I think it was like just one of the many breadcrumbs God throws me. Like on my way to heaven.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a nice description of that. I think what happens to most people who have played, not just with adults, but with children, let it go.
Mm.
Oh, wow, that was neat. Okay, now on with the laundry.
Yeah. Now I couldn't let it go because it was such it didn't make sense to me. All the things I've learned about how to move in this world it takes time from there to here. There's a certain amount of weight, there's a certain amount of pressure when kids hold you. And that was gone. There was no, I can't explain. It was just like one experience that changed my whole view on how this world works. It was just not explainable to me. And that was also the beauty of the whole thing, because it makes it like really, wow, this is something I want to know more about. And I really want to know more about, because I notice how it changes my everyday life and how I receive the world.
I think for me now, there are two, what I like to think of as koans that describe all of original play. One is who plays, and the other one is, and your description fits this perfectly, impossible and true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think about those and you think, oh, wow, what an incredible world this is then.
Yeah.
So all the time when I translated first time, I remember actually the moment, because I was at the Wolf Sanctuary when I thought of the phrase original play. Up until that point, and even longer, original play for me was discovering a pattern.
Oh,
It was still part of my science training.
yeah.
And how big is this pattern? But now it's really clear that I'm still looking for how big the pattern is. But I know that the pattern is possible and true. And that I can't remember which physicist said this, but it said something like, the longer you do science, the closer you get to God.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that's true exactly of original play.
Yeah, yeah,
And you can't do anything about it.
yeah.
Can't say, oh no, I won't do that, I won't. I don't do anything. Because that's what is. It's like gravity.
Yeah.
I don't try to do something about gravity. And I don't try to either not do something or do something about that original play is impossible and true at the same time.
I have another word. Love.
Ah, yeah, that's
You use love. You started to use love only like a few years ago.
yeah,
Before
that's
you didn't use
it's
the word love in your workshops or your talks. What do you think? How did that develop? You didn't use the words love. You didn't use the words God.
right.
Like when we met like 10 years, 11, 12 years ago, you didn't use those words. But then you started slowly integrating them. And now it's just about that. It's just nothing else. So how
Yeah.
did that develop?
Well, I guess the first part was that I never even considered love or God to be part of this. A play. It just never occurred to me. But when I started connecting dots, it was clear that things were happening that I didn't control. Not only did I not control them, they were beyond my skill sets for it to happen. And what took place even on, say, a mundane level, on a practical, everyday level. I'm right now thinking of a little girl. What was her name? Her name escapes me for a moment. She was blind, and she's probably 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And she couldn't be in the sun for very long, because if she was in the sun for 5 or 10 minutes, she could die from it. So one day she said to me, Fred, what does sun feel like? I said, okay, wait just a minute, Jamie. So I ran out. This is Southern California, so we have lots of sun. I ran out in the sun and rubbed my hands together, put them up. I got them really warm. I came back to her and I said, okay, this is what sun feels like. And I put my hands on her face. Now, we had played along, so putting my hands on her face was something that I had done forever with her in our play. So she said, huh? And she reached her hands out and put her hands on my face. And she said, Fred, you have a head. And I thought, what? Is she surprised I have a head? Or is she telling me a fact that I didn't know about? It was like, wow, I just had to accept her translation of behavior. And you don't question, you just accept, and you're there. And the touch, and I realized this is not just about touch. This is not just about the sun. This is about the two of us. And that leads me to a really powerful experience with a young woman who had cancer. Cancer had been described as terminal. And we were at a cancer retreat, and we had an hour together. And she said, Fred, I have a teenage son at home. I can't roll around on the floor and be rambunctious. How can I play with him sitting in a chair or lying on the bed? So I gave her some things to do with him, because I wanted her to understand that the practice of play has nothing to do with a set form of doing something. It's the intent that lies behind the form. That's the practice. And then all of a sudden, I've never done this before. I said to her, okay, come down on the floor. She had an oxygen tank that she was attached to. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm going to do something now that you can do with your son. Mm-hmm. And I will take your position, and you are going to take your son's positions. So I sat on the floor in a seated position that we often take to initiate a back roll in Aikido. Mm-hmm. And I sat her in my lap with my arms around her, and we got her the tubes to the oxygen tank straightened so they wouldn't get tangled up. And I said to her, now what I'm going to do is roll backwards like we're in an amusement ride. And I'm going to close my arms around you, not tight, but just embrace so you can't fall out. Mm-hmm. And I want you to count 1, 2, 3, go, and tweet, we go. Mm-hmm. So we did that. I rolled back with her in my lap, and we came back to sitting position. And she said, again, do again. So we did it 3 or 4 times. And she was laughing and just had the greatest time. And she said she was too tired to do any more. Yeah. And I said, are you clear what your roles are here? Yeah, I can do this. So later in the afternoon, she didn't feel well. So she had to go home. And her son and her husband came pick her up. And the staff and I went out to say goodbye to her. And at the car, she and I hugged and looked at each other. And then when I turned away, I realized what we did on the floor was not for her and her son. Mm. It was for the two of us. Mm-hmm. I said, this is about the giving and receiving of love. Mm. Period. Yeah. Not the future, not the past. It's now. Yeah. Yeah. I thought, wow, this is it. This is not Fred's love. Mm. It's not her love. There's a third party involved here. That third party even told me what to do because I didn't have any idea what to do. If you asked me ahead of time, I would have thought, I don't know, that's kind of risky. It has nothing to do with risk. Yeah. God's love is not about risk. It's not about danger. It's not about consequences. It is bigger than all of what we do on earth. All of what our fears and worries are on earth. I thought, whoa, she taught me the only way she could teach me. So over and over, I realized from kids, from animals, from adults, that when I said original play, that also means original love. It's not Fred's love or what Fred's learned about love. It's not what he's read from philosophers and psychologists and psychiatrists. The whole human history, including physicists, including Feynman, agree the most important thing in human existence is love. Yet they don't know how to do it. It gets tangled up. Original places, there's no entanglement. You can't have entanglement when it's just right, when it's clear. And so you don't have to let go of anything because the process does it for you. Oh, wow, what a relief. And how many times have I read in the writings of saints, whether they're Christian, Jewish, Arabic, or indigenous people? God's love's already there. This is not something you have to earn. Birth is God's love as a gift. Live it. Don't be afraid of it. So it's as if when I think back through all of the practices of the years, 50 years of original play, in the situations, thousands of which I had no idea what to do. Nothing at all. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. And it all turned out just right. And people always, this incredible Zen question, how did you do that? And I tell them, I didn't do it. And their eyes roll around like, well, if you didn't do it and I saw you.
Yeah.
They don't know what to question next.
Well, your body is there, so it must be you.
Yeah. I remember I was playing at a Head Start, which is like kids 4 or 5 years old in America. And we played, there was one session in the morning, and it would be one session of different kids in the afternoon. So in between, I was sitting on the grass outside in a park eating lunch. And a teacher came running out to me and said, Fred, we need you right away. There's a hummingbird trapped in the room, and we've done everything, and we can't get it out. And as she turns to run back, she said, you know animals, you do it. And I got up and ran after her and said, I have no idea what to do. What in the heck am I going to do? I had no idea. No idea at all. I ran, and they had darkened the room at one side and left one end with, there are 2 doors. They left the doors open. And the hummingbirds just flying all over the place. I go to the door and put my hand up like that. And just like you said with the boy running at you, before my hand got completely up, the hummingbird was right in my hand. And I just held it down, walked across the room, and let it go, and it flew away. And the teachers were, oh man, you're magic. How did you do that? I didn't do anything. And the magic, like with you and the boy, it wasn't just you, it was the boy. It was a relationship going on with other kids here. It's the relationship together that produces the just right.
Yeah.
How'd the hummingbird know that this little space was the only safety in the room? Not here, not anywhere, just there. Somehow the hummingbird in my hand knew each other. And how did my hand know, holding him at the other door, how much pressure to put on so he could fly? If there's not enough pressure, he can't fly. He just sits there. I don't know how I did it. I didn't do that. So the whole relationship is not just Hummingbird Fred. It's Hummingbird Fred and God. God's love creates a relationship that is just right. That's all it can be. The three of us don't sit down and debate what it is we should do.
Yeah.
I don't think about what I should do because I don't know in the normal way of knowing. I don't know what it is I should do. But I feel what it is I should do. And it's the feeling that presents my part in the relationship.
Yeah.
I don't play God. I don't play humming. I don't try to be a hummingbird. And it's all of us kind of being comfortable in who we are. And the who we are is faces of God, not our categories. And so the more I play, the more I experience whatever intuition or feeling I had that spouted out the word original has been absolutely true. It was exactly the right word. And love is part of that. It's not my love. It's the love that created the whole thing in the first place. The original love. Still here, I think. And I imagine that God wonders when are humans going to get it. He must get really frustrated with us.
Yeah, that's one question that I think about. How come you experience so many things to really feel this different way of being, and so many other people don't get it? We don't feel it, don't we? Where is the...
I don't know the
what to
answer
call this.
exactly, but part of it could be curiosity. I mean, how many people in the world have seen children play? And how many people, adults, actually played themselves? And nobody got it? Nobody? That's amazing to me. But even at the time, among the scientists and social workers and all the adults I knew, nobody was curious about how I stopped aggression in kids. Nobody wanted to know how could they do that. Nobody. And I remember thinking, why don't they want to know? Are they comfortable with how they are? They're not curious enough.
I imagine that some might think it's a skill set that only you have.
Yeah, I think that's
And then
true.
you think, okay, I'll never be able to do that. But it's not like a skill set that's your friends. It's like you participate in something else, and the skills come with that.
At first, that made a lot of sense to me, because at first I thought it was the kid's skill set. those kids somehow know, and I couldn't figure out where they knew this from, that behavior that would normally elicit aggression and fights and all that stuff, that didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? The kids never made any big deal out of it, except what David told me. So I wanted to know, why don't they? Why are they to do what they do? How do they know that? It wasn't that I just wanted to know, how did they do that? I wanted to know, how could I do that? It's like telling Einstein, I'm not just curious how you did that. I want to know how I can do that. And that's the missing link. I want to be in that curiosity. I want to be in the field that finds new things. I want to be the explorer. I don't want to read the explorer's books. Yeah. Reading their books is not enough. Observing the kids wasn't enough. Yeah. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to know what it was, how they behaved. And the more I did that, the more I was shocked. What should happen didn't happen. It's as if my whole life, what should happen is not going to happen. Nobody should have hired me at children's school. Yeah. Nobody should have allowed me to play with the wolves at Wolfhaven. Nobody should have allowed me to play with the lion. Nobody should have allowed me to be in Paulsmoor prison. And it goes on and on and on and on and on.
And gets bigger, yeah. But you always were in situations that regular people don't get into, or that make themselves available even.
What shocked me all the time is nobody wants to do what I'm doing. I mean, the wardens one day asked me, a couple of them, wanted to do what I was doing, but the directors of the prison didn't. Directors of schools don't want to know what I do with kids.
But isn't it interesting that it seems to be not in, how do you call it, grippable for them? It seems to be so far away, or maybe they don't even know what they could see or know what they could learn. Because it looks like you need experience, you need to feel this, you need to have this one moment where you think, what's going on? My whole world turns around, and you need this shaking moment. Otherwise, you don't know what the heck is Fred talking about. It's just nothing there that you connect to into your everyday real life.
There's another koan of original play. You need the experience in order to get the experience.
Yeah. So the only thing is you can make yourself available, but nothing else.
And another part of language that I've thought of recently that I just love because it's so accurate, God's played me. And he does such a masterful job that it's like watching you in the kitchen. You have an invisible idea of how things are going to all be put together to end up with this meal on the table. And I watch you, and I can't get from there to here. I can't even figure out how you got there. But when it comes to original play, I'm the meal. And God is putting me. Why did I have a Potawatomi grandfather who said, Fred, there's nothing to be afraid of. Okay, so I let that go. I didn't know what to do with that. Then in college at the University of Washington, my friend's son says, Fred, come down, skin your knees, bruise your heart with God and me. I thought, what kid says that? And you look at what he said to me. He described the last 50 years of my life. Getting down is letting go. In order to play with kids, you got to get down on the ground. You can't stand up. I didn't know that. Nobody told me that except for Court. But I had to do it. That was a step that had to happen. The just rightness was not me questioning, I don't want to get down with these kids. Why do I have to get down on the ground? I just did it, period. No questions. Skin your knees? Oh, yeah. Broken this, broken that, bloody this, bloody that. Yeah, that happened. Bruise your heart? Oh, yeah, that was big. Without the bruising of the heart, there's no original play. Got to be hit over and over again so that your whole body, your whole spirit gets a shock big enough to recognize that it is a shock. And with God and me, come on, I don't even believe in God. What are you kidding? Court described my whole life. So there's God putting in front of me the hints.
Yeah.
And what do? I got down that day with Court and his dad, ignored everything else. And I can see God saying,
Oh my God.
okay, we got to give him a little bit more. And you got to give him some more. You got to give him more. You got to give him more. There's a constant, and now looking back, I needed all that push. But God did it in such a way that I couldn't do anything but accept what was happening.
Yeah.
It was masterful. St. John of the Cross was absolutely correct when he asked God, how do you teach me? And God told him. Now, when I read that, I thought, it's exactly what happened to me. And the wonderful thing about that's that's different from many human beings who write about a kind of relationship with God. Mine was not one-on-one, just one-on-one. I didn't go sit in a monastery or sit on a pillow. Mine required the involvement of the whole world. I don't learn a thing without kids and animals. Nothing.
Yeah.
They all played a masterful part in teaching me exactly what I needed to know all the time. And nobody took any credit. That's a real master. It's Yeah. And there's another thing about all these words. As I started making a list, my first thought was, well, I'm only going to have like 10 words, so that's not really much of a list. It's become over 100 words so far. Mm-hmm. And I noticed something about the words. They're all like Indra's web from Hindu mythology, mm-hmm. in which all of the balls, all of the things reflect every other ball.
Yeah, yeah.
And that to me is what entanglement is like, what engodded is like, and what this list, I noticed, well, if in order to define this word, mm-hmm. I have to define that word. Mm-hmm, yeah. And then this word over here, yeah. All the words,
they're all connected. Yeah.
Are connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you really understand one, that helps you, with that one, yeah, I get that, okay. Mm-hmm. And that's. I haven't really started to write down the definitions of all these words, because that's going to be, a fun and not so easy job.
It's a challenge, yeah, I imagine.
But I like the thought. Now I'm thankful for Christoph's push to say there's another one of these things. These events that happen that I'm not in charge of, but I have to be curious. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If I wasn't curious about what he was doing, mm-hmm. it could be just let go. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And why? There's so many times at breakfast or during the day when we sit across from each other's desk, and you describe something that happened with the kids at school or with staff or something, and I think, how'd that say more about that? And it jogs my curiosity about, well, how does that relate to, how does love at school, what does this love, God's love, what does that mean as a teacher in a school? And you described your classroom, and I say, yeah, that's what it means. That's the practice. The practice isn't the love. The practice is connecting to the source through which the love comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
It's so easy to think of, I love the kids in my class.
That wouldn't be easy for me, for someone.
And it doesn't...
My lab is too small for that.
Yeah, I remember sitting when I first went, the very first time I went to Wolfhaven, I went with my friend Vicky. Mm-hmm. And the two of us were sitting in this little trailer with Jack, the biologist. And they were talking back and forth. Vicky really loves animals, and she was, wow. And while they were talking, I'm looking out this little bitty window, and it's a rainy Seattle type day. And all of a sudden, I say to them, I want to play with them, and I point. And they both look at me. And in the car when we left, Vicky said, Fred, you don't like dogs.
Yeah.
What in the heck? Why did you say that? She has a dog that I never liked.
I know you don't like
she
dogs.
likes little dogs, and I don't like them. And it's true. The only dog I ever remember liking was Buster, who was a St. Bernard on the farm when I was a kid, who I could actually sit on. But I didn't like dogs. Dogs I didn't like. So why the heck did I want to play with wolves? She said, makes no sense. But I didn't decide to go to Wolfhaven.
Yeah.
Vicky decided to go to Wolfhaven. Mm-hmm. She wanted more. And I said, yeah, I'll go. I don't care. I'd never seen a wolf. I'll see a wolf. And all of a sudden, in that environment, I go from here to impossible.
Well, it's like God gets you on a hook and he just reels you in,
Yeah.
and then he's got you without you even knowing it. Yeah.
It was all Vicky's fault. I told her that forever, and she was happy to take the blame for that.
Yeah, wonderful.
And she would say too, well, I was part, God was the other part, and you just kind of went along. That's... Sometimes over the years, I've wondered why me. Like that's part of the question you asked.
Yeah.
And the reality is I don't really know the answer to that. But sometimes I think, why would I choose any other life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is
it. I think the same. Like I hear all your adventures, then I look at all my adventures, and I want mine. I like yours, but I like mine more. Though they don't seem that. No lion jumped me, but there were these little things that make up a life where I think, oh, God hooked me in, and He's working there and here and there, and even starting to recognize that like from childhood on, there were these moments that kind of you do things, you don't know why, you just do them, and then you need them for the next step, and for the next step is like everything's built and laid out already. Sometimes you take a detour, but then you get on the path that's already kind of there. But being curious about it and feeling you participate and you have the choice, but you also don't have a choice because there's only one just right way.
maybe that's the point of workshops. That each curiosity in an individual life will take care of them. But you got to practice. You got to be responsible. And you can neither do it yourself or be proud of what you do. Because you're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's where it gets tough because like in cultural world you want to be proud, you want to show off, but there's nothing, if you really look into what you do and how things are done, you know you're just there. Your body is there, but you're not doing anything. There's nothing to be, say, I did it. My body was there. And I enjoyed the moment, but there was no me doing something.
It's
But to me, it's what makes the adventure so beautiful. It makes it so beautiful that I can participate in something, but I don't have to do things that I have no idea how to do.
and perhaps that's the initiate for curiosity. What do you do when you don't know what to do? I often thought about how do I train people in original play? And I joke that I've got 5 animals and you choose one,
Yeah.
and you go play. It's grizzly, lion, tiger, polar bear, great white shark.
I'll take the butterflies. Because that's not easy either.
And a butterfly could be one.
Yeah.
And I say, in order to do the task I'm giving you, you have to let go of absolutely everything you've ever known. And that's what curiosity is really about. Letting go of everything you know. And you got to do it this minute, this now, the next now, the next now. You never stop being a beginner. And it's that, I love Kaz's idea of, if every moment is full, why do we need to practice? And I think about that in regard to playing. We never practice play. You're either playing or you're not playing. What you described was not practice for something that was going to happen the next day.
No, no.
And that's, wow. Play requires that we're consciously not practicing. That we're, and it's if I'm aware of that, I understand more clearly what happens when you are going to make dinner. And every time I come in and say, can I help you? And in one way or another, I can put water in the pan, but essentially no. And it took me a long time to move from, oh, I can't help, to understanding, of course you can't help. This is her curiosity, this is her, every moment is a beginning. And the beginning leads to the next beginning and the next beginning and the, and I've got to let go of that, of trying to do something when what's required of me is don't try anything. Just be. The answer will be there, not in your head. It's like having a child, a young daughter or son, and they're doing artwork or they're making something with stuff on a table. And as mom or dad or even as teacher, you see that and you come over and you say something like, can I help? Or how about this? And the child does something like that. I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
I go, yeah.
And you need to do it yourself because you never know what the next step's going to be. So sometimes I just can't tell you how you could help because I don't know what's going to happen with all the stuff I've laid out. Well, that's the...
And how often we do that. And that's what I mean by how God plays me. He knows how to exactly step in when, and he lets me explore. And the stepping in is in such a way that I don't even know he stepped in. I think I'm doing the next thing. That's masterful.
Yeah.
And that's, God is a masterful teacher. And that's the model for us in your classroom when I was teaching, to create situations in which a child says, I did this myself, knowing I didn't do it myself. That the two are impossible and true.
Yeah.
And that's part of another reason for workshops, to have people start looking at the world differently.
Yeah.
Looking at their relationships differently.
That's
How
what
do
I
I
want.
relate to my people in my job?
To me, it's like, how can I experience the life in a different way?
Yeah.
How can I, maybe I've just had this small vision of life, and how can I open up to see, oh my God, life is so much more alive if I can open myself up to that. And then, I like this, one of my favorite quotes is like, after ecstasy, laundry. And to me, it was always like, this is the ecstasy, this is laundry. But no, it's the same. It's after, before. It's like, because also in my everyday cooking, doing laundry, I have this moments of, oh, who did it? What happens? How can life come through that?
So eventually laundry becomes ecstasy.
Yeah.
I had the same thing with doing ensos.
And so that's a especially beautiful one.
I
really like this one.
used to think that there was a moment when I'm actually doing an enso, but it takes so much time to get all the stuff. So there was stuff, enso stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's just enso.
Yeah.
That it begins, the enso, the circle begins before I ever get to the paper. And this reflects not just a moment of here, it reflects all the moments that it took.
That you played before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I realized when I was playing with lots of kids and lots of situations, hours and hours every day, sometimes I stopped on the outside of a school, and I just stood on the sidewalk. And I just stand there. And I would say, play starts now. So my sense of what original play was began before I ever got to the mat. Began before I got in the school. It's how I moved in the hallway, how I interacted with teachers or director or kids in the hallway. And that changed something that's absolutely very practical. How do I touch the world? How do I let the world touch me? If I go in the school as a consultant who plays with the kids in Mrs. Smith's classroom, then the rest of the school is nothing. It's not in my world. If I stop on the outside and say, okay, now, play starts now. So it means when I go into the school, whoever I see is already part of the world that I touch. They don't have to know it. One of God's wonderful teaching is, I don't know when God touches me. It's all the time. It's invisible and overwhelming. So I need to create a space in this entire school, not just Mrs. Smith's classroom. To do that, I begin now. So as I pass kids, as I talk to teachers, I always touch. But they don't know I touch them. It's not harassment because imagine they're going to go to court and say, I was harassed by God. What are you going to do with that? We get all flummoxed, upset, frustrated when someone touches us because we think the only touch that exists is in this world of categories.
Yeah.
Well, if the touch comes from outside the categories,
It's invisible.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to take that to court.
But there's no reason even, because you just feel, you might not even know that you've been touched, but you feel different.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you don't even need to physically touch. I remember one situation where I wanted to play with a boy in my classroom. It was years ago. He was frustrated about something, and we were outside, and I just showed him, let's do something different. And I got down on my knees, and he got down on his knees, and we were just in that second to start. And then from the side, we saw kids running from the higher classes. They had like sports. And I thought, okay, we can't stay here. So we got up again, and the moment was over. So we weren't even really playing. We were just meaning to start, and then we were interrupted. But we had this like split second of an eye contact, and that changed the whole relationship of me and that boy. We never played, but he was different from that day on. In my class, he behaved differently, and he was like very high energy, but it changed. That it was like split second of some information, touch, whatever. I can't explain, but it changed in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
There was a connection that wasn't there before.
That could be another reason for the workshops. Help people connect the dots that lead only to God. So events like that, people just let go of and say, well, okay, that was nice, I really liked that, but it ended and most of the world is laundry.
Yeah, it's connecting, connecting the dots, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one difference. I connected the dots.
Yeah.
The right dots.
Yeah. So that will
And we
be
need
part
to help kids connect the dots.
Yeah.
They already do it. We have to make sure we don't put walls between the dots. Like between science and art and all the other things we do.
So that will be the title for the next workshop, How to Connect the Dots.
Okay. Thank you.